Different kinds of obligation was determined. Kinds of solidary obligation was classified to three. Existence, effect, and defenses of solidary was now introduced. Concepts and characteristics of joint indivisible obligation will be known. Capability, incapability of partial performance will be learned. Penalty will be charged for the non-compliance of obligations even without a proof of damages. Reduce of penal clause and nullity of principal obligation. Is it possible? Broadcasting live from Batas ng Bayan, MCNP, ISAP, Cagayan. Good evening, Philippines. Good evening, Cagayan. It's Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021, and we hope you're having a great day here in Cagayan. This is Diana, your news anchor, serving you the hottest and the most leading news of the hour. The Batas ng Bayan. For the details of our news, activity for the Group 1 of the obligate subject, the students was tasked to explain the Lesson 4 of the different kinds of obligation. The Lesson 4 contains the following: the joint and solidary obligations, the kinds of solidary obligation, the existence of solidarity, the effect of an unauthorized assignment of creditors' right, and the defenses available to solidary debtors. Moreover, the concept and characteristics of joint indivisible obligation and indivisibility and solidarity will also be introduced in the performance. Further, divisible and indivisible obligations as well as the penal clause will be tackled. For your first lesson, the joint and solidary obligations, it can be determined in joint and solidary obligations that there is a concurrence of two debtors or two or more creditors in one and the same obligation. While in a joint obligation, each debtor is liable only for a proportionate part of the debt, and each creditor is entitled only to a proportionate part of the credit. For more information to solidary obligation, let us hear it from Kyle. Kyle, how's the situation there?
Diana, currently we are going to discuss the kind of solidary obligation. The kinds of solidary obligation can be classified to two, which are the passive solidarity, active solidarity, and mixed solidarity. Passive solidarity is a solidarity on the part of debtors, while the active solidarity is a solidarity on the part of creditors. Lastly, mixed solidarity is a solidarity on the part of both debtors and creditors. Other terms for solidarity obligation are the jointly and severally, individually and collectively, in solidum, mancomunada solidaria, and juntos o separadamente. While the other terms for joint obligation are the proportionately, pro rata, mancomunada, and mancomunada simple. These are the different kinds of solidary obligations. Diana?
Thank you, Kyle, for the existence, effect, and defenses of solidarity. Let us review the topic by our news correspondent, Sharina.
With the Article 1211, the solidarity exists although the creditor and the debtor may not be bound with the same periods and conditions. Moreover, Article 1213 states that the solidarity creditor are bound by mutual trust and confidence. Hence, a solidarity creditor cannot assign his right to the third person without the consent of other solidarity creditors, because the assignee may not enjoy the trust and confidence of the non-assigning creditor. In the case that assignment is without the consent of the co-creditors, then it will be void. Accordingly, they can recover their respective shares from the assigning creditor in case the assignee who collected the debt fails to give them their own share. The defenses available to solidarity debtors are the following:
those derived from the nature of the obligation, those personal to the debtor being sued, or those that pertain to his own share, those personal to the other debtors with respect to their own share. I am Sharina Ambre for BNB Patrol.
Let's keep our news rolling. The concept and characteristic of our joint indivisible obligation will be known. Let us hear it from our BNB news reporter.
Thank you, Diana. For the joint indivisible obligation is an obligation where the debtor and the creditor are jointly bound to the manifestation or the object is indivisible. It has the following characteristics.
From the Article 1209, it states there that the creditor must act collectively, meaning all of them must make the demand unless one is especially authorized to act for the others. A demand made by some but not all of the creditors will not be effective. The Article 1209 also includes that the demand must be made against all the debtor since compliance is possible only if they act together. Furthermore, the right of the creditor may be produced only by their collective act. Thus, a renunciation made by a joint creditor extinguishes only his own share. The obligation, however, is converted into an obligation to pay the value of the thing. If all the joint creditors make the renunciation, the obligation is extinguished. On the other note, the Article 1224 states that if one of the debtor does not comply with his undertaking, the obligation is converted into a monetary obligation to pay damages. The debtors who may have been ready to comply shall not contribute to the indemnity beyond the corresponding price or the thing or the value of the service in which the obligation consists. Lastly, the Article 1209 have explained that if one of the debtor is insolvent, the other shall not be liable for his own share.
Once again, I am Sharina Amber, your BNB News correspondent.
Let us keep the conversation running and more lessons to reveal. BNB Patrol will be right back.
Next month ulit.
Your smile brightens the darkness. Oh, you bring out my best. Your touch takes away the bitterness. I miss your sweetness. Only you can bring out my best.
Tagal ng next month. Namiss kita eh.
Bring out the best in your coffee. Coffee Mate.
From Nestle.
Now we are back to Batas ng Bayan Patrol. The divisible and indivisible obligations will now be explained. A divisible obligation is the one that is capable of partial performance, while the indivisible obligation demonstrates the one that is not capable of partial performance. For the details in the panel clause, our news reporter will explain it further for us.
Thank you, Diana. The accessory undertaking on the part of the debtor is called the penal clause. It is the one which provides the greater liability on the part of the debtor in case of non-compliance. The functions of penal clause are the following.
A penal clause is attached to an obligation in order to ensure performance and has a double function, and that is to provide for liquidated damages and to strengthen the coercive force of the obligation by a threat of greater responsibility in the event or breach.
Moreover, according to Article 1228, the proof of actual damages suffered by the creditor is not necessary in order that the penalty may be demanded. The kinds of penal clause are the following: legal and conventional. Legals imposed by law and conventionals imposed by the agreement of the parties. Subsidiary and joint. Subsidiary when only the penalty may be enforced, and joint when both the obligation and the penalty may be enforced. As for the reduce of penalty and nullity of principal obligation, it will be the following.
The court may reduce the penalty when the obligation has been partly complied with by the debtor. Second, when the obligation has been irregularly complied with by the debtor, and lastly, when the penalty is iniquitous or unconscionable, even if there has been no performance. Effect of nullity of principal obligation penal clause. The nullity of the principal obligation carries with it the nullity of the penal clause. This is so because the penal clause, being just an accessory undertaking, cannot stand by itself. The nullity of the penal clause does not carry with it that of the principal obligation. This is so because the principal obligation can stand by itself.